Marcus Chen stood at the edge of the crowded spaceport cantina, nursing a glass of synthetic alcohol that tasted like recycled coolant. The amber liquid did nothing to wash away the bitter taste of another failed job interview. 3 weeks on Nexus Station, and every potential employer had given him the same look. The universal expression that said, "Human trash." The Zephyrian bartender's forearms moved with practiced efficiency as he served drinks to a table of Corvan mercenaries. Their chitinous exoskeletons gleamed under the station's harsh lighting, and their mandibles clicked in what Marcus had learned was laughter. They were talking about him. Again, "Look at the little Terran," one of them buzzed in, accented Galactic Standard. "Still here. Still hoping someone will hire his worthless species." Marcus kept his eyes on his drink. He'd learned not to react. Humans had been part of the galactic community for only 50 years, and in that time, they'd earned a reputation as the universe's biggest disappointments. Too weak for heavy labor, too slow for courier work, too fragile for security, too stupid for technical positions. The galaxy had expected great things when humanity first achieved faster than light travel. But reality had been a crushing letdown. "I heard the mining consortium rejected him yesterday," another Corvan clicked. "Said even their most basic tunneling work was too dangerous for human physiology." A Velkari female at the bar turned her serpentine head toward Marcus, her scaled features twisted in disgust. "My people were wrong to sponsor Terran membership in the community. They contribute nothing. They take up space and consume resources." The bartender's lower arms continued cleaning glasses while his upper arms gestured dismissively. "The terraforming companies won't even hire them for the planets named after their own world. Ironic, isn't it?" Marcus finished his drink and placed the glass on the sticky table. The metal was warm to the touch. Everything on this station ran too hot for human comfort. Another reminder that this galaxy wasn't built for his kind. He stood to leave, fishing for credits to pay his tab. "Where are you going, little Terran?" The largest Corvan had risen from his table, towering over Marcus's modest 6-foot frame. "The entertainment is just beginning. Just heading back to my quarters," Marcus said quietly. "No trouble. No trouble?" The Corvan's mandibles spread wide. "You breathing our air is trouble enough. You eating our food, taking our jobs, that's trouble." "I haven't taken anyone's job," Marcus replied, keeping his voice steady. "Nobody will hire me." The other patrons had turned to watch now. This was apparently the evening's show. A cetacean trader floated in his mobility tank, his whale-like form undulating with what might have been amusement. A pair of insectoid Thrixie had paused their card game, compound eyes reflecting the dim lights. "Smart employers," the Corvan continued. "Humans are weak, stupid, useless. Your entire species is an evolutionary dead end." Something hot flared in Marcus's chest, but he pushed it down. He'd heard worse. "If you'll excuse me." The Corvan's primary arm shot out, shoving Marcus backward into his chair. "I didn't dismiss you, ape." The cantina erupted in clicking, chirping, and buzzing laughter. Marcus felt heat rise to his cheeks as he struggled to maintain his composure. This was exactly what they wanted. For him to lose control. To prove their point about human instability. "Korvac, enough." The bartender's tone carried mild annoyance. "You're disturbing other customers. The human is disturbing us just by existing," Korvac replied. "Maybe it's time someone taught him his place." Marcus started to stand again. But Korvac's massive hand pressed down on his shoulder. The Corvan's grip could easily crush human bone. And they both knew it. "Please," Marcus said. "I don't want any trouble." "Of course you don't. Coward species. Your people surrendered the first time they met real resistance from the hegemony. No honor. No courage." That wasn't entirely accurate. Humans had fought the hegemony for 3 years before negotiating a ceasefire. But Marcus didn't bother correcting him. Truth rarely mattered in these situations. The station's lights suddenly flickered, and a low vibration ran through the deck plating. Conversation in the cantina died as everyone looked around nervously. The vibration came again. stronger this time, followed by the distinctive whine of failing gravity generators. What in the void was that? Someone whispered. The station's emergency communication system crackled to life. Attention all personnel. We have detected an unidentified vessel approaching at high speed. All non-essential personnel should remain in their current locations until further notice. Korvac's grip on Marcus's shoulder tightened. Probably just another cargo hauler with malfunctioning nav systems. Nothing to concern ourselves with. But Marcus felt something else. A prickling sensation at the base of his skull. Like static electricity building before a storm. He'd never experienced anything like it before. But somehow, he knew this wasn't just a navigation error. The lights flickered again, and this time they stayed dim. Emergency lighting cast eerie red shadows across the cantina's walls. The alien patrons began muttering in their various languages, voices tight with concern. "Hull breach in Section C," announced the communication system. Emergency teams respond immediately. All civilians maintain safe distance from outer corridors. "That's impossible," the Velkari female hissed. "Nexus Station's shields can stop anything short of a capital ship's main guns." The deck plating beneath their feet began to vibrate continuously now, a deep thrumming that seemed to resonate in Marcus's bones. Other patrons started moving toward the exits, but Korvac kept Marcus pinned in place. "Where do you think you're going, Terran?" Before Marcus could answer, the cantina's main viewport exploded inward. The blast shields should have sealed instantly, but they hung frozen halfway across the opening, their mechanisms sparking and failing. Atmosphere began rushing out into space, carrying loose objects and unlucky patrons toward the void. Korvac's grip on Marcus's shoulder turned into a death grip as the Korvan fought against the vacuum's pull. His other arms flailed wildly, trying to find purchase on anything solid. Other aliens scrambled for emergency oxygen masks and magnetic anchors, their earlier bravado forgotten in the face of imminent death. Through the jagged opening in the station's hull, Marcus saw something that made his blood freeze. A ship unlike anything in the galactic databases hung motionless in space, its organic curves and bone-white hull gleaming in the light of the local star. It was beautiful and terrifying, like a predator frozen in the moment before striking. But it wasn't the ship that held his attention. It was the creature floating in the void between the vessel and the station. The thing was massive, easily 20 feet long, with a body that seemed to shift between solid matter and something else entirely. Tentacles or appendages writhed around its central mass, and where Marcus expected to see eyes, there were instead clusters of light that pulsed with alien intelligence. This was no known species. This was something from the deep void, from the spaces between stars, where sane beings feared to travel. The entity turned its attention toward the cantina, and those points of light focused directly on Marcus. The static feeling in his head exploded into something like music. If music could be made of concepts instead of sound, he heard, felt, understood, a presence vast and ancient, speaking in languages that existed before words were invented. Most of the communication was beyond human comprehension, but certain concepts came through clearly. Asterisk curiosity. Recognition. Approval. Asterisk. The thing was studying him, and somehow, impossibly, it seemed pleased by what it found. Korvac's grip on Marcus's shoulder loosened as the Korvan stared in terror at the floating nightmare. Other aliens in the cantina had stopped scrambling for safety and stood frozen, their various expressions of fear remarkably similar despite their different physiologies. The entity drifted closer to the breach in the station's hull, and Marcus felt that musical presence grow stronger in his mind. It wasn't painful, quite the opposite. It felt like coming home after a long journey, like finding something he'd been searching for his entire life without knowing it. Asterisk, ancient wanderer. Asterisk, the voice that wasn't a voice whispered in his thoughts. Asterisk, pack hunter. Persistence predator. The galaxy has forgotten what you are, but we remember. Asterisk, what are you? Marcus whispered, not caring if the other patrons heard him talking to empty air. Asterisk, we are the eldest. We were old when your star was young. We have watched your species from the void between worlds, waiting. Asterisk, Waiting for what? Asterisk. For you to be ready. For the galaxy to underestimate you enough. For the moment when a true predator would be needed. Asterisk. The lights in the thing's central mass pulsed brighter. And Marcus felt a sensation like warm fingers touching his mind. It wasn't invasive. More like an invitation. A request for permission to look deeper. The Terran's gone mad, someone behind him whispered. He's talking to himself. Marcus ignored them. This was the most important moment of his life, though he didn't yet understand why. What do you want from me? Asterisk partnership, alliance. You understand hunting in ways these others cannot. You know patience, persistence, the willingness to pursue prey until it falls from exhaustion rather than trying to overwhelm it with brute force. Asterisk. Images flashed through Marcus's mind, memories that weren't his own. He saw primitive humans tracking mammoth across endless tundra, running them down over days or weeks until the massive creatures collapsed. He saw his ancestors following wounded game through forests and across continents, never giving up, never stopping until the hunt was complete. Asterisk. Your people are not the failed species this galaxy believes them to be. You are something far more dangerous. Persistence predators in a universe that has forgotten what that means. Asterisk. The entity began to withdraw from the hull breach, but its presence remained strong in Marcus's mind. Asterisk. We offer you a choice. Young hunter, continue to live as prey in their galaxy, accepting their judgment of your worth, or come with us and remember what your species truly is. Asterisk. I don't understand, Marcus said. Asterisk. You will. The galaxy is vast, and there are threats in the void that require special handling. Dangers that cannot be fought with strength or speed or technology alone. They require patience, cunning, the willingness to pursue an enemy across time and space until justice is served. Asterisk. The ship in space was moving now, backing away from the station. Marcus felt the invitation pulling at him like a physical force. Asterisk. Choose quickly. Marcus Chen, of Terra. The hunt begins now, and we have prey to catch. Asterisk. Marcus looked around the cantina one final time. Korvac had released him entirely and was cowering behind an overturned table. The other patrons stared at him with expressions ranging from terror to bewilderment. These beings who had mocked him, dismissed him, treated him like worthless garbage. He thought about his failed job interviews, his dwindling credits, his tiny quarters in the station's cheapest section. He thought about the future that awaited him here. More rejection. More humiliation. More proof that humans had no place in this galaxy. Then he thought about the images the entity had shown him. The memories of what his people had once been. Hunters, predators, beings who never gave up once they'd chosen their prey. Marcus walked toward the hull breach. He's insane, someone whispered behind him. The decompression has driven him mad. Stop him, another voice called. He'll be killed. But Marcus felt no fear as he approached the jagged opening. The entity's presence wrapped around him like a protective cocoon, and he knew he would be safe. More than safe. He would finally be where he belonged. He stepped through the breach and into the void. The last thing he heard before the station's distance muffled all sound was Korvac's voice, no longer mocking but filled with something that might have been respect. By the ancestors, the Korvan whispered. What has the Terran become? Marcus's first sensation was warmth, not the artificial heat of climate control systems, but something deeper. The kind of warmth that came from being truly welcomed. He opened his eyes to find himself lying on what appeared to be a living surface, soft and slightly luminescent, that adjusted to support his body perfectly. The chamber around him defied easy description. Walls curved in impossible directions, and the ceiling, if it was a ceiling, seemed to shift between solid matter and something resembling a starfield. Bioluminescent patterns pulsed along the organic surfaces, creating a rhythm that matched his heartbeat. Asterisk. You adapt quickly. Asterisk. Came the familiar musical voice in his mind. Asterisk. This is promising. Asterisk. Marcus sat up slowly, surprised to find he felt better than he had in weeks. The constant ache in his lower back from sleeping on the station's cheap mattresses was gone. His chronically tired eyes felt clear and sharp. Where am I? Asterisk, aboard the Nightingale, our hunting vessel. Your new home, if you choose to accept it. Asterisk. The others on the station, are they safe? Asterisk. Your concern for beings who showed you only contempt is noted. Yes, emergency systems sealed the breach after your departure. No lives were lost. Asterisk. Marcus nodded, though he wasn't sure why he'd expected anything else from an entity that had been watching humanity for eons. What happens now? The space around him shimmered, and suddenly he wasn't alone. The entity materialized in the chamber. Not the massive, tentacled form he'd seen in space, but something more manageable. It still defied easy categorization, shifting between shapes like liquid thought, but the presence felt familiar now. Asterisk. Now you learn. Your species possesses instincts that were refined over millions of years of evolution. Instincts this galaxy has never encountered and does not understand. We will help you remember what you are. Asterisk. A persistence predator, Marcus said, the term feeling strange on his tongue. Asterisk. More than that. Your ancestors could track a single animal across continents, using nothing but determination and intelligence. They could coordinate hunts across generations, passing knowledge from parent to child until a goal was achieved. They never stopped, never gave up, never lost sight of their prey. Asterisk. The chamber's walls began displaying images, not on screens, but as three-dimensional projections that surrounded them. Marcus saw vast hunting parties moving across prehistoric landscapes, small groups of humans following game trails that stretched beyond horizons. He watched as his ancestors used tools and fire and cooperation to bring down creatures many times their size. Asterisk. But that was only the beginning. When your people reached the stars, they brought those instincts with them. The galaxy sees only your physical limitations and misses the truth. Asterisk. Which is, asterisk. That no species in known space can match human tenacity when properly motivated. No other race has your capacity for long-term planning combined with your unwillingness to abandon a chosen goal. These traits make you uniquely suited for certain types of work. Asterisk. The images changed, showing star maps with routes marked in pulsing light. Some paths were straight lines between systems. Others were vast spirals that covered hundreds of light years and seemed to take decades to complete. Asterisk. We hunt rogue entities across the galaxy. Beings that prey on civilized worlds and then flee into deep space, believing they are safe in the void between stars. Most law enforcement gives up after a few systems. Even the most dedicated military units abandon pursuit after a few years. Asterisk. But you don't. Asterisk. We never did. But we are few. And the universe is vast. We have been waiting for a species that shares our understanding of the hunt. Asterisk. Marcus studied the star charts floating around him. Some of the pursuit routes were staggering in their scope, journeys that would take human lifetimes to complete, following prey across multiple galactic arms. How long do these hunts usually take? Asterisk. The shortest was 8 years. The longest is still ongoing after 3 centuries. Asterisk. 300 years? Marcus felt his stomach drop. But that's impossible. Human lifespans. Asterisk will not be a limitation aboard this vessel. Time moves differently here. What you experience as years, the outside universe experiences as decades or centuries. And there are other benefits. Asterisk. The entity moved closer. And Marcus felt that warm presence touching the edges of his consciousness again. Asterisk. We offer enhancement, not alteration. Your thoughts will become clearer, your reflexes sharper, your memory perfect. You will retain everything that makes you human while gaining the tools necessary for the hunt. Asterisk. And in return? Asterisk. You help us catch prey that has eluded us for far too long. Asterisk. The images around them coalesced into a single star system. Marcus could see several planets orbiting a yellow dwarf star, with one world highlighted in angry red. Asterisk. The consume all flesh. Comes from dimensions beyond normal space. Every few centuries, it manifests in our reality to feed on sentient life. Its last appearance was in the Kepler sector. Asterisk. Marcus watched as the projection showed a thriving world with billions of inhabitants. Then something dark descended from space. Not a ship, but a creature of living shadow that enveloped the entire planet. When it departed, nothing remained but a lifeless husk. Asterisk. 7 billion Altarian souls. An entire civilization consumed in a matter of days. The entity then fled into deep space, leaving no trace except gravitational anomalies. Asterisk. The authorities just let it go? Asterisk. The Galactic Defense Force pursued for 6 months before declaring the trail cold. The Hegemony Navy lasted 2 years. Even the Void Hunters, the most persistent bounty hunters in known space, gave up after 5 years of searching. Asterisk. But you haven't. Asterisk. We have tracked it across 47 systems over the past century and a half. It moves in patterns, following gravitational currents between stars, pausing to feed on cosmic radiation and dark matter. Most beings would see its course as random, chaotic, but to eyes trained in the hunt, patterns emerge. Asterisk. The star map expanded, showing a web of connected systems stretching across a significant portion of the galaxy. To Marcus's untrained eye, it did indeed look random, but as he studied it longer, something began to emerge from the chaos. It's spiraling, he said slowly. Not moving randomly at all. It's following some kind of route. Asterisk. Excellent. Yes. The creature is bound by instincts as ancient as our own. It feeds. It flees. But always along paths that will eventually lead it back to rich feeding grounds. We have calculated its most likely destination. Asterisk. A new system appeared in the projection, highlighted in blue. Marcus could see it was heavily populated, with space stations and shipping lanes indicating a major commercial hub. Asterisk. The Nexus Prime System. Home to 12 billion souls across 4 inhabited worlds. If our calculations are correct, the consume all flesh will arrive there within the next 6 months. Asterisk. You want to set a trap. Asterisk. We want to end a hunt that has lasted too long. But the creature is cunning. It has survived for eons by avoiding direct confrontation, fleeing whenever it senses organized resistance. Standard tactics will not work. Asterisk. Marcus was beginning to understand. You need someone who won't give up. Someone who will follow it, no matter how far it runs. Asterisk. Someone whose species spent millions of years chasing prey across endless distances. Someone who understands that the hunt doesn't end when the prey disappears from sight. Asterisk. The entity's form shifted, becoming more solid, more defined. Marcus could see what might have been eyes regarding him, with ancient intelligence. Asterisk. But first, you must learn. You must understand not just the hunt, but the prey. You must become something this galaxy has never seen before. A human optimized for pursuit across the stars. Asterisk. How long will that take? Asterisk. Time, as I said, is fluid here. To you, perhaps a few months of training and preparation. To the outside universe, exactly as long as we need. Before the creature reaches Nexus Prime. Asterisk. Marcus felt a thrill of anticipation run through him. For the first time in his adult life, someone was offering him a chance to be more than humanity's designated failure. A chance to prove that humans belonged in the galaxy not as servants or laborers, but as something far more dangerous. Asterisk. There is one more thing you must understand. Asterisk. The entity continued. Asterisk. Once we begin this hunt, we do not stop. If the creature flees to the edge of the galaxy, we follow. If it hides in the spaces between dimensions, we find a way through. If the chase takes 10,000 years, We continue until justice is served. Asterisk. And if I want to leave? If I decide this isn't for me? Asterisk. Then you leave. We are hunters, not enslavers. But choose carefully, Marcus Chen. This is your chance to show the galaxy what your species truly is. What you have always been. Asterisk. Marcus thought about the cantina on Nexus Station, about Korvac's contemptuous laughter, and the universal dismissal he'd faced his entire adult life. He thought about the failed job interviews, and the growing certainty that humans would never be anything more than the galaxy's biggest disappointment. Then he thought about the images the entity had shown him, his ancestors tracking prey across continents. Never stopping. Never giving up. He thought about what it would feel like to be part of something greater than himself, to use skills and instincts that evolution had spent eons perfecting. When do we start? The chamber around them began to change, walls flowing like water, to create new configurations. What had been a simple room became something larger, more complex. A training facility designed specifically for him. Asterisk. We start now. First, you must learn to see as we see. To track prey not just through space, but through time and probability. To read the signs that others miss. Asterisk. A holographic display materialized in front of Marcus, showing what appeared to be empty space. But as he focused on it, guided by the entity's presence in his mind, patterns began to emerge. Gravitational distortions, quantum fluctuations, trace particles that indicated something massive had passed through this region of space. Asterisk. The consume all flesh left this trail 18 years ago. Can you determine which direction it was traveling? Asterisk. Marcus studied the display, letting his mind work through the problem. It was like tracking a deer through forest undergrowth, looking for broken twigs and compressed leaves. Except here, the forest was space-time itself, and the signs were written in physics. There, he said finally, pointing to a subtle distortion in the quantum foam. It was moving toward the galactic core. Asterisk. Correct. Now, based on the dispersion pattern of these particles, can you estimate how fast it was traveling? Asterisk. Hours passed as Marcus worked through increasingly complex tracking exercises. The entity was a patient teacher, guiding him through the fundamentals of cosmic pursuit. He learned to read hyperspace wake signatures, to identify the unique dimensional footprints left by interdimensional beings, to calculate probable courses based on gravitational influences and stellar phenomenon. But it wasn't just about academic knowledge. As the training progressed, Marcus began to feel changes in himself. His reflexes quickened, his memory sharpened until he could recall minute details from exercises completed hours earlier. Most importantly, his intuition, that indefinable sense that separated good hunters from great ones, began to blossom. Asterisk. You learn faster than we anticipated. Asterisk. The entity observed as Marcus successfully tracked a simulated target through a maze of false trails and quantum echoes. Asterisk. Your species' neuroplasticity is remarkable. Asterisk. How am I doing compared to whatever you usually train? Asterisk. We have never trained others. You are the first being from outside our species to attempt this form of hunting. But your progress suggests we chose correctly. Asterisk. The training facility reconfigured itself again, creating a more complex scenario. This time, the trail Marcus was following didn't just move through space. It moved through time as well, creating paradoxical loops and temporal echoes that should have been impossible to unravel. Yet somehow, Marcus found himself following the logic of it. The prey, whatever it was, thought like a hunted animal. It used every trick available to break pursuit, including diving through temporal anomalies and folding back on its own trail. But predator instincts that had been refined over millions of years of evolution guided Marcus through the maze. Asterisk. Remarkable. Asterisk. The entity murmured, as Marcus successfully tracked the simulation to its conclusion. Asterisk. You think like prey thinks. You anticipate their moves not through calculation, but through understanding. Asterisk. It's not really me, Marcus admitted. Asterisk. Exactly. We merely awakened what was already there. Your ancestors never lost the hunt. They simply had no worthy prey to pursue. Asterisk. As the weeks passed, or what felt like weeks in the fluid time of the ship, Marcus's abilities continued to grow. He learned to pilot the vessel's exotic hunter craft, ships that could pursue targets through hyperspace and dimensional barriers. He studied the behavioral patterns of rogue entities, learning to think like creatures that existed outside normal reality. But most importantly, he began to understand what it truly meant to be a persistence predator among the stars. Asterisk. The galaxy sees persistence as a weakness. Asterisk. The entity explained during one of their sessions. Asterisk. They value quick solutions, immediate results. A war that lasts more than a few years is considered a failure. A hunt that extends beyond a single season is abandoned. Asterisk. Because they don't understand the value of patience. Asterisk. Precisely. But you do. Your people once followed single herds for generations, passing the knowledge from parent to child until the goal was achieved. That same instinct, properly directed, makes you the perfect cosmic hunter. Asterisk. Marcus felt the truth of it resonating in his bones. This was what he had been born for. Not to be another failed human struggling in an alien galaxy, but to be something the universe had never seen before. A predator adapted for pursuit across infinite distances and impossible timescales. Asterisk. Are you ready? Asterisk. The entity asked as their latest training session concluded. Ready for what? Asterisk. To begin the real hunt. Our calculations show the consume all flesh will reach the outer edges of the Nexus Prime system in 72 hours. It is time to set our trap. Asterisk. Marcus felt his pulse quicken with anticipation. After weeks of preparation, he was finally going to face the creature that had eluded every other hunter for over a century. What's the plan? The star map reappeared around them, showing the Nexus Prime system in exquisite detail. Marcus could see the inhabited worlds, the space stations, the shipping lanes that would carry billions of innocent lives directly into the path of an interdimensional predator. Asterisk. We cannot simply wait for it to arrive. By then, it will be too late to prevent catastrophe. Instead, we must intercept it in deep space before it can begin feeding. Asterisk. But if it's as cunning as you say, won't it detect our ambush? Asterisk. Under normal circumstances, yes, but we will not be hunting it in the normal way. We will be hunting it as humans hunt. With patience, persistence, and the willingness to follow our prey to the ends of the galaxy if necessary. Asterisk. The entity's presence in Marcus's mind grew stronger, sharing plans and strategies that had been refined over centuries of preparation. This wouldn't be a battle in any conventional sense. This would be a pursuit across space and time, a test of wills between predator and prey, and for the first time since leaving Earth, Marcus felt the void between stars, held secrets that most sentient beings would never comprehend. Marcus floated in the pilot's chamber of the hunter craft, his consciousness expanded across multiple dimensions as he tracked their quarry through the cosmic dark. 3 days had passed since they'd left the Nightingale's protective embrace, and still the consume all flesh remained elusive. Asterisk. Patience. Asterisk. The entity reminded him. Asterisk. It knows it is being hunted now. The prey grows desperate. Asterisk. Through the ship's exotic sensors, Marcus could perceive traces of their target, quantum disturbances where it had briefly materialized in normal space, gravitational anomalies that marked its passage through folded dimensions. To any other hunter, the trail would have appeared hopeless cold, but Marcus had learned to read the universe like his ancestors read animal tracks in mud. It's changing course again, he reported, his enhanced perception following the creature's dimensional wake. Moving toward the Helix Nebula. That's the opposite direction from Nexus Prime. Asterisk. Misdirection. It hopes to confuse us, to make us doubt our calculations. Lesser hunters would abandon the pursuit, believing their intelligence was flawed. Asterisk. But we know better. Marcus felt the familiar thrill of the hunt singing in his blood. The entity had been right. Something deep in his genetic memory understood this dance between predator and prey. It's testing our commitment, seeing if we'll follow it into the deep void. Oh, the Helix Nebula was a graveyard of stars, a region where failed suns had collapsed into neutron stars and black holes. Most ships avoided it entirely due to the dangerous gravitational fields and exotic radiation. It was exactly the kind of place a desperate creature might flee, hoping its pursuers would value their own safety more than the hunt. Asterisk, do we follow? Asterisk, the entity asked. Though Marcus could sense it already knew his answer. Of course we follow. It's what humans do. The hunter craft adjusted course, its dimensional drives engaging to match their prey's retreat into dangerous space. As they drew closer to the nebula, Marcus began to understand the creature's strategy. The intense gravitational fields would mask its presence, while the radiation would interfere with their sensors. It was a clever move, but not clever enough. There, Marcus said, pointing to what appeared to be empty space near a collapsed binary system. It's hiding in the gravity well between those neutron stars. Asterisk. I detect nothing. Asterisk. Because it's not fully in our dimension. It's using the gravitational distortion as an anchor point, keeping most of its mass in folded space, while maintaining just enough presence here to monitor our approach. Marcus's enhanced intuition guided his hands across the control interface. The ship's sensors reconfigured themselves, abandoning conventional scanning in favor of tracking the subtle dimensional echoes that betrayed their target's location. The consume-all flesh revealed itself gradually, like a photograph developing in an ancient darkroom. First came hints of its presence. Shadows that fell the wrong way. Starlight that bent through impossible angles. Then its true form began to emerge from the spaces between reality. It was even more terrifying than Marcus had imagined. Where the entity that had chosen him maintained at least some recognizable structure, this creature was chaos given form. Its body, if it could be called a body, shifted constantly between states of matter. Liquid darkness shot through with veins of hungry light. Appendages that might have been tentacles or pseudopods writhed around its central mass, each one large enough to crush a space station. Asterisk. It knows we have found it. Asterisk. The entity observed as the creature began to move, its form becoming more solid as it prepared for confrontation. Good. I'm tired of chasing shadows. But the consume-all flesh had no intention of fighting. Instead, it began to retreat deeper into folded space, using the neutron star's gravity wells to accelerate its escape. Within moments, it was moving at significant fractions of light speed. Heading toward the galactic rim. It's running, Marcus said, surprised by his own disappointment. Asterisk. Of course it is running. This is what it does. Feed, flee, hide in the void until memory of its crimes fades. But this time will be different. Asterisk. Because we won't stop chasing it. Asterisk. Because you won't stop. Your species never learned when to quit. Asterisk. The pursuit began in earnest then. The consume-all flesh led them on a chase across 12 star systems, diving through dimensional barriers and folding space to cover impossible distances. It used every trick in its ancient arsenal, doubling back on its own trail, splitting into multiple false targets, even briefly hiding inside a black hole's event horizon, where time moved at different speeds. But Marcus matched it move for move. His human instincts, refined by eons of evolution and enhanced by the entity's technology, allowed him to think like prey while maintaining a predator's patience. He anticipated the creature's moves, cut off its escape routes, and maintained pursuit even when the trail seemed impossible to follow. Days became weeks, weeks became months. Other beings would have given up, convinced the chase was hopeless. But Marcus felt his determination only growing stronger. This was what his species had been born for. Not to dominate through strength or intelligence, but to simply outlast any opposition. Asterisk. The creature is growing desperate. Asterisk, the entity observed as they tracked their quarry through another dimensional fold. Asterisk. It has never been pursued for so long. Asterisk. How long has it been running? Asterisk, 6 months, 17 days, 8 hours by Galactic Standard Time. The longest pursuit in our records. Asterisk. Marcus smiled grimly. Then we're just getting started. The Consume All Flesh made a critical mistake on the 203rd day of the chase. Exhausted by constant flight and increasingly desperate, it attempted to lose them by diving through a quantum storm. A region of space where the barriers between dimensions grew thin and reality became negotiable. For most beings, following prey into such a phenomenon would be suicide. But Marcus had learned to navigate spaces that existed outside normal physics. More importantly, his enhanced intuition told him this wasn't another misdirection. This was panic. "It's trapped," he said as they emerged from the quantum storm into a region of space that shouldn't exist. They were inside a pocket dimension, a bubble of twisted reality that the storm had torn from normal space-time. The Consume All Flesh hung motionless in the center of the dimensional prison, its form flickering as it tried unsuccessfully to tear through the walls that held it. For the first time since the chase began, it was truly cornered. Asterisk. "Now we end this." Asterisk, the entity said. But as Marcus prepared to engage their prey, something unexpected happened. The creature spoke, not in the musical telepathy that the entity used, but in a harsh cacophony of radio frequencies and gravitational waves that hurt to perceive. Yet somehow, Marcus understood the meaning behind the alien communication. Asterisk. "Why?" Asterisk, it demanded. Asterisk. "Why do you persist? Others have hunted me before. They always give up. Always find easier prey. Why do you continue?" Asterisk. "Because that's what humans do," Marcus replied, broadcasting his thoughts across multiple spectrums so the creature could understand. "We don't know how to quit." Asterisk. "I have fled across half the galaxy. I have hidden in dimensions beyond counting. I have used every advantage, every trick learned over eons of existence. Still, you follow." Asterisk. "And we'll keep following. That's the difference between you and us. You think the hunt ends when you disappear from sight. We know it's just beginning." The creature's form pulsed with what might have been emotion. Asterisk. "What do you want? Revenge for those I have consumed? That will not restore their lives." Asterisk. "Justice," Marcus said simply. "You took 7 billion lives in the Kepler sector. Entire civilizations that will never see another dawn because of your hunger." Asterisk. "I am what I am, a force of nature. You might as well seek justice from a supernova or a black hole. Natural disasters don't choose their victims. You do. You could feed on cosmic radiation, on the energy between stars. Instead, you choose to consume sentient life because it tastes better. That makes you more than a force of nature. That makes you a predator." The entity in Marcus's mind stirred with approval. Asterisk. "Well said. But words will not contain this creature. It must be stopped permanently." Asterisk. The Consume All Flesh sensed the shift in their intentions. Its form began to pulse more rapidly, gathering energy for a final, desperate assault. Marcus could see dimensional barriers beginning to crack around them as the creature prepared to tear its way out of their trap. "It's going to break free," he warned. Asterisk. "Then we must act now. But be warned. Destroying such a being will release energies that could tear this pocket dimension apart. We may not survive." Asterisk. Marcus thought about the billions of lives hanging in the balance, about the creature's inevitable return to the feeding grounds around Nexus Prime. He thought about all the civilizations that would fall if they failed here. Sometimes the hunt requires sacrifices, but as he prepared to activate the Huntercraft's exotic weapons, another solution occurred to him. It was insane, impossible, and completely contrary to every tactical manual ever written. It was also the most human thing he could imagine. "Wait," he said. "I have a better idea." Hold. Instead of attacking, Marcus began broadcasting on every frequency he could access. Not to the creature, but outward, toward normal space-time. His message was simple but comprehensive. The location of the Consume All Flesh, its capabilities, its hunting patterns, and most importantly, its weaknesses. Asterisk. What are you doing? Asterisk. The entity asked, making sure the hunt doesn't end with us. Within hours, the first response arrived. A hegemony dreadnought, its captain intrigued by reports of the legendary predator's location. Then came a Galactic Defense Force battle group, Void Hunter mercenary fleets, even the notorious Corvin death squads. Soon, the pocket dimension was surrounded by an entire fleet of ships from every major power in the galaxy. Beings who normally would never work together, united by a common purpose: to ensure the consume all flesh could never threaten civilized space again. Asterisk. Clever. Asterisk. The entity admitted. Asterisk. You have turned the creature's notoriety against it. Asterisk. The consume all flesh thrashed against the walls of its dimensional prison as it realized what was happening. It had spent eons cultivating a reputation for invincibility, for being impossible to catch or contain. That same reputation now brought every major fleet in the galaxy to witness its capture. "This is Commodore Vex of the Hegemony 4th Fleet," came a transmission from the assembled armada. "Surrender immediately, or face destruction." "Galactic Defense Force Battle Group 7 standing by," added another voice. "The creature is to be contained pending trial for crimes against sentient life." Even Korvac's voice came through the communication array, though Marcus barely recognized it without its usual contempt. Corvin hunting packs confirm target identification. The beast will face justice for its crimes. The consume all flesh's struggles grew weaker as it realized the futility of resistance. Surrounded by the combined military might of civilized space, trapped in a dimensional prison, and faced with hunters who would never give up pursuit, it finally understood defeat. Asterisk. I yield. Asterisk. It broadcast across all frequencies. Asterisk. I surrender to your justice. Asterisk. As the creature was transferred to a specially prepared containment vessel, Marcus felt the familiar music of the entity's presence in his mind. Asterisk. It is done. The hunt ends in victory. Asterisk. No, Marcus said, watching the alien fleets positioning themselves around their prize. The hunt is just beginning. Asterisk. What do you mean? Asterisk. Look at them. Hegemony ships working alongside GDF battle groups. Corvin hunters cooperating with Void mercenaries. They've never done this before. United against a common threat. Marcus gestured toward the communication displays, showing dozens of species coordinating their efforts. They're starting to understand what we've known all along. Some hunts are too important to abandon. Some prey requires patience and persistence to catch. Asterisk. And you believe this will change how they see humanity? Asterisk. I think it already has. As if summoned by his words, a new transmission arrived from the fleet's command ship. "This is Admiral Tavara of the Galactic Defense Force. We wish to speak with the hunters who tracked this creature for over 200 days. Marcus activated the communication array. "This is Marcus Chen of Terra." A long pause followed. When the Admiral spoke again, her voice carried a note of something Marcus had never heard directed at a human before. "Respect. Mr. Chen, on behalf of the galactic community, I want to thank you for your service. Your persistence in this matter has saved countless lives." "The Admiral speaks for all of us," added Commodore Vex. "The Hegemony wishes to formally apologize for our previous treatment of your species. We did not understand what you truly were." More voices joined the chorus. Corvin pack leaders offering hunting partnerships, Void mercenaries requesting tactical consultation, even the normally isolationist Thrixie expressing interest in human persistence techniques. Asterisk. They see you now. Asterisk. The entity observed with satisfaction. Asterisk. Not as the galaxy's failed species, but as something far more valuable. Beings who never give up. Asterisk. Will you return to them? Marcus asked. To your own people among the stars? Asterisk. Perhaps, someday. But first, there are other hunts to complete. Other predators who believe the void can hide them from justice. Are you willing to continue? Asterisk. Marcus looked out at the assembled fleet, at representatives from dozens of species who had come together because a human had refused to abandon a hunt. He thought about all the other cosmic predators that might be lurking in deep space, confident that no one would pursue them far enough or long enough to bring them to justice. What's our next target? The star charts reappeared around them, showing new trails, new mysteries, new hunts that stretched across impossible distances and timeframes that would challenge even human persistence. Asterisk. There are reports of something called the Dream Eater in the Andromeda Spiral. It feeds on the collective unconscious of entire worlds, leaving populations trapped in endless nightmares. Local authorities lost its trail 3 decades ago. Asterisk. 3 decades, Marcus mused. That's nothing. Humans once tracked mammoths for longer than that. Asterisk, indeed. Shall we begin? Asterisk. Marcus felt the familiar thrill of anticipation as the Nightingale's drives engaged, carrying them toward a new hunt among distant stars. Behind them, the combined fleet continued coordinating the containment of the consume-all flesh, using protocols and techniques that Marcus had helped develop. But ahead lay greater challenges, deadlier prey, and hunts that would test the limits of even human determination. It was exactly what he had been born for. As they entered hyperspace, a final transmission reached them from Nexus Station. Marcus was surprised to recognize the voice. It was the Zephyrian bartender from the cantina where this had all begun. "Human Marcus," the message said, the 4-armed alien's tone carrying none of its previous dismissal. "Your former quarters have been converted into a shrine." The inscription reads, "Here lived the being who taught the galaxy that humans never quit." "I thought you should know." Marcus smiled as the transmission ended. Somewhere in the void ahead, the Dream Eater was continuing its reign of terror, confident that it was safe in the spaces between galaxies. It had no way of knowing that a persistence predator was already on its trail, following a scent that would never grow cold. The galaxy had finally learned what humans truly were, and the universe was about to become a much more dangerous place for those who preyed on the innocent. The hunt continued. Ike was exactly where he belonged,